Well, greetings, my beloved clients and friends. I just want to do a follow-up video. Last time we talked about the S&P 500, and at the end I said, it invests in American companies, and there's a reason why we choose the S&P 500. And one of the reasons is that it invests in American companies. And I want to tell you why we prefer that. But first, I forgot to say one thing about the S&P 500 and the structure that it's created, and is that it's weighted. So if when you own the S&P 500, you own those 500 companies, but it's not divided equally 1/500th for each company. It's weighted by market cap. So it means the larger ones have a bigger piece of the pie. As a matter of fact, I think the largest 9 out of the 500 represent, I think, 30% of the S&P 500. So it's the 500 best companies, but it's weighted towards the best of the best. So as they get bigger, they become a bigger piece of the portfolio. And if they start getting smaller, or relatively smaller because they're not keeping up, they become a smaller part of your portfolio. So I think that weighting favors the better companies, right? Versus an equal weight. So that's one last comment about the S&P. So now let's talk about why we like the fact that they invest in American companies. And I've been reading this book called Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville. And this was written around the 1830s by this man. I said his name was Alexis de Tocqueville, and he was a French aristocrat, young guy in his early 20s, and he was sent over here with a friend to analyze the American penal system, their prison system. But he came over here, and not only did he analyze the prison system, he analyzed all of America, our political system, our governmental system, our culture, business, and it was insanely insightful. And even though the book was written almost 200 years ago, I mean, when you read it, it's so prescient and so, enduring. And the whole time I was reading, I was blown away. It's like, a kid in his 20s wrote this? And it was just amazing, his insight into the I don't want to say the psyche, but the makeup of America, what it is to be American, and our personality, if you will, our culture, our ethos, and he just got it. And when he wrote it to an audience of the French leadership, and his conclusion was, be warned, basically, America is coming. They have some serious fundamental advantages, and they're going to take over, basically, is what he was saying. And they do. It's not just that they do some things better, but just their way of doing things gives them an advantage. And that has endured for the last couple hundred years. And it's interesting when you read it now. I also almost get a sense like, man, some of the things that were our advantages, we're letting them slip, or that are our advantages, we're kind of letting them slip, and we should get back to what made us great. That Alexis de Tocqueville noticed. But even with that, even with us slipping a little bit from what made us great, we're still head and shoulders above much of the rest of the world by our very makeup. And let me just give you a couple examples. So the way the approach to business of Europe, for example, is so much different than in America. And like I lived in Europe for a few years, from 85 to 88. And there's some things about it that as a consumer, I really liked. Because, like, for example, I would work a 24-hour shift, and then I was off for 2 days. And the first thing I do when I got off was I would stop at this, it was like a bakery slash candy store slash cafe. And I'd go in there and I'd have a cup of coffee. They called it a kuchen of coffee. It was like 2 cups of coffee in a little pot. And, I'd sit there and I'd read the morning paper as best I could because the morning paper was in German. And I'd have my coffee and I'd sit there with my legs crossed and eating on like white linen and silverware, and I'd have my cheesecake. And let me tell you, cheesecake tastes way better when you eat it with a silver fork. I don't know why. And the china where the coffee was served was so nice that I asked the store, hey, where'd you get this? Because I liked it. And I bought myself a set. Say, when I go back to the States, I want to take a set with me. I was so impressed with the china that I got to eat on at this little cafe. And the owner was always there. Her name was Frau Weber, because it was, Weber Conditore. And we became friends because, by the time I got there, like the morning rush had subsided. And so we became friends, and I helped her learn a little bit of English, and she helped me learn some German. And just that whole experience was kind of typical of the stores in Europe, that you walk in and the owner's there. And often the owner lives above the store, and it's the one store that they own. And they do things very excellently. And I went to Ireland recently, and it was the same thing. The hotel that I stayed at was the owner was there, and it was their one hotel, and the restaurants that we ate at and the shops that we shopped at, even the gas station that we got gas at, it was the owner was there, and because of that, they gave a certain level of service. And compare that to in America, you go eat at Applebee's, which is a nationwide chain, and you stay in a Marriott, which is a nationwide chain, and you get gas at an Arco, which is a nationwide chain, and you shop at Macy's, which is a nationwide chain, and it's just a little bit different experience. And so in the book, Tocqueville says, the reason that America's that way is that in Europe, there was the ruling class and the working class. That was it. There was the aristocracy or the nobility, and then all their servants, right? You were either one or the other. And you were either born one or the other. And there was really no upward mobility or downward mobility. I mean, that the station you were born at was the station that you stayed at, and that was the life that you lived. And if you were a craftsman or a merchant of any sort, your clientele was typically the nobility. So it was a very small group of people that were your clientele that could afford stuff. Everybody else couldn't afford stuff, whether it was clothes or shoes or food. They made their own, and they built their own house, and so they didn't pay people for those type of things. They didn't go to the theater. Entertainment was only for the nobility. So if you provided those services, you provided them only for the nobility. So it wasn't a huge market, but it was a very demanding market. So your motivation was to make the absolute best to compete in that market. If you're gonna make a pair of shoes, you wanted to make the absolute finest pair of shoes, because only then would you make a sale, because money wasn't an issue. Quality was really the only issue for your market. right? So the concept of mass market and dominating a global market was just totally foreign. You're just really trying to sell something to a handful of rich people, okay? And so in America, he said, in America there's equality and there's democracy, and anybody could own land, have a business, build wealth. Doesn't matter, what you were born. Doesn't matter what your dad did. You know what I mean? You had a chance to make something of yourself. And he said in America there was just this sense that people thought that they could make something of themselves, so they were just working. They were industrious, and they were just trying to get ahead because they could, if they applied themselves, and not only that, but not only could anybody be a business owner or a merchant or whatever, anybody could be a customer, right? And there were so many people that were making something of themselves that there was a big market for anything, right? You don't only sell shoes to the nobility, you could sell shoes to everybody. You could sell TVs to everybody. You could sell a washer and dryer to everybody. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the 1830s, but I'm talking about going forward in America. You could sell a Model T Ford to everybody. You could sell an iPhone to everybody. You could sell a laptop to everybody, a house to about 60% of everybody. And so the market in America is radically different. And the philosophy in America is to become the global leader of whatever I'm doing, And it's funny, and they even make a joke about it in Silicon Valley, because when these startups, if you looked at any number of pitch books or pitch decks of these startups, their mission for every single one is to be the global leader in X. And that's just the way that Americans think. And that's totally foreign to the way they think in Europe. They're trying to be the best little shop they could. So let me give you an example. Let's say, and my granddaughter just did this. She put a little lemonade stand on the corner. And here's what an American would do if they put a lemonade stand and it started going well. They'd put another one, right? They'd say, wow, this lemonade stand is profitable. Let's put another one on the next block over. And let's put another one on the next block over. And let's hire some little kid and put them in there. And we're going to become the global leader of lemonade stands. And we're going to put our lemonade in every grocery store in America. And then we're going to expand globally, right? That's just how Americans think. If it was a European kid and he puts a lemonade stand and it starts going well, they would think, well, let's serve this lemonade in nicer cups. Let's get some nice crystal glasses, and it keeps going well. And let's get like a linen tablecloths on our little tables, and let's put these little bistro tables, and let's put a striped awning at my one location, And let's hire a violinist to play when people are drinking their lemonade. And let's get the finest sugar in the world for our lemonade and the finest lemonades for our one lemonade stand. So that's just the way Europeans would think, and that's the way Americans would think, right? They just think globally. And that's why there's an S&P 500 companies that are leaders in their industry, either nationwide at least, or globally, And there's a handful of companies that are not American, and they're coming over to America, and they're taking market share, and it really bugs me a little bit, because those should be American companies. I'll just name a few of them that get under my skin a little bit, because why are they coming over here and taking over our markets? One is Aldi. They're coming over here and they're dominating grocery store. They're taking up market share. They're selling groceries cheaper. They're running their business like an American company, and they're from Germany. Why are those German grocers coming over here? Why did we let them? Why did our grocers not beat them? why are our grocers getting beat by them? It bugs me a little bit that, you know, they're doing what American companies do in America and in the rest of the world, you know? Another one is Zara. It's a clothing store from Spain. And as you see them popping up at these malls, and they have quasi nice clothes, but for a mass market, you know, just like Aldi sells groceries to a mass market. You know, it's not the finest; it's the cheapest. And Zara's coming over here, and they're showing up in every mall, and it's like, why are they eating the lunch of our American clothing stores, our Macy's and Gap and Forever 21, and it's like, we should be able to beat them. They shouldn't have an entrance into our market. IKEA, that's another one. They came over here from Sweden, I believe, and they're dominating the furniture market. And I mean, it's just such a mass market way that they do it, like the American way, but they're not American, and they're coming to America, and they're doing it on our soil, and it's like, why is not an American company doing that? Nestle, right? They just look and feel like an American company. They make this mass market chocolate, and they sell it to every place in every corner of the globe. That's the way Americans do business. And why isn't Nestle an American company? You know? But if you think about it, you know, that's their one for each of their respective countries. Aldi, that's their one. I mean, they have a few other big companies, but you know, that's their one. And for Spain, Zara, that's their one. And for Sweden, IKEA, that's their one. And Nestle is, I think, Switzerland, that's their one. You know, but that's the exception, not the norm in those countries. In America, that's the norm. A company that just dominates a global market the way they do, right? If Spain and Germany and Sweden and Switzerland have one, we have 500, and it's called the S&P 500. You know what I mean? So, yeah, maybe there's a handful of markets that we were sleeping on, and we let a foreigner come in, but that's not the norm. That's the exception. That's in general, it's an American company that's in the lead globally in whatever market we're thinking about, because that's just fundamentally the way we do business, and it's fundamentally not in the nature of other countries. Now, China is a company to kind of keep an eye on, because they have some, you know, Alexis de Tocqueville didn't get a chance to go see China, and they have some qualities that are pretty good. They have some kind of market dominating qualities that we have to keep an eye on. But recently, Xi Jinping has been kind of taking swipes at those companies that are getting a little too big for their britches in China. So, you know, that's yet to be seen how that plays out. But what I'm saying is the environment for those companies that go on to dominate markets globally is America, and we will continue to produce those type of companies. So when you invest in the best of America, you're investing in the best of the world, and we get it. That's what we teach in our business schools. And like, for example, McDonald's. Is McDonald's the best hamburger you ever had? No. But is it the best hamburger business there's ever been? Yes. You know what I mean? Is Starbucks the best cup of coffee you ever had? No. But is it the best coffee business that there's ever been? Yes. You know what I mean? And that's how Americans do business. They're not necessarily trying to make the best cup of coffee. They're trying to make the most profitable one. You know what I mean? And they do it. And then they take that and they take it across the country, and then in a few instances across the globe, like Costco, Starbucks, Nike, McDonald's, Apple, Google, Facebook. These are companies that have global markets. The most recent quarterly a report from Google. They said something like, I'm going to totally misquote this, but you'll get the idea. They said something like, we have 5 products with over 1 billion customers and 9 products with over 300 million customers, or something like that. I mean, that's insane, right? And you could say only in America that happens. So that's why we like American companies, because American companies are thinking about growing, they're thinking about being a global leader, and they have a track record of doing it, and their managers were all trained in that. And their managers across the board, from senior management to middle management, that's just the way they think and the way they do business. So that's one reason why we like investing in America. And that's going to continue. For the most part, the global leader in whatever the next market is, odds are it's going to come from America. Okay, so that's all I got for you. And hopefully that gives you a little bit insight into why we like investing in U.S. companies. Okay, have a great day.